Faith and science are not mutually opposed, because they've sort of, from the wider culture, they've imbibed this idea that, well, either I choose religion and I take Genesis literally as a description for the origins of the universe, and I believe that creation happened 6,000 years ago, right? Or I take the scientific story, but the two of them are mutually exclusive. So that's just it's very liberating intellectually for the students to realize, I don't have to make that choice. It's a false choice, right? The rhetoric in American culture in 2020 is pretty shallow. It's not very deep.
Right.
You know, it's a pretty shallow approach to things. We're in this culture where it's all about, there was an author about 20 years ago who wrote a book called The Argument Culture. We're in this culture where it's immediately about us taking opposite sides and battling it out. You know, the Democrats and the Republicans, or whatever it is, right? Liberal Catholics and conservative Catholics, or whatever it is. And we're just going to fight it out. But the thing is, neither of these groups goes very deeply into the fundamental tenets of what they say they believe.
Right.
So it ends up being rather shallow and superficial and unproductive.
Right.
There's a kind of knowledge that comes from reasoning things out, from the scientific method and so forth. There's very real knowledge that comes from that is very beneficial to humankind. As Pope Benedict says, the world is intelligible because it was created by an intelligence, an intelligent creator. So the world is understandable. And as the commandment, you know, from the people of Israel, the commandment as it comes to us in the New Testament, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, and with all your strength. So knowing God with our minds is a part, which means knowing the universe, right? Is a part of God's commandment to us to use our minds. So there's no aspersion cast on science at all. But faith is a different kind of knowing that comes to us in a different way. You cannot use the scientific method. You know that your mom and dad love you. I'm sure you know that
right.
With every fiber of your being. Prove it to me with the scientific method. You can't, right? There's a kind of knowledge that comes to us that is valid and legitimate knowledge, but it doesn't come to us in the same way as the scientific method. You fall in love with someone. Prove to me that you're really in love with them using the scientific method, right?
Yeah.
There's a kind of knowing that comes from another place than reason. And that's what faith is all about.